All right, let's dive into a really foundational piece of law today. We're going to be talking about the legal guardian of Telangana's natural heritage, the Forest Act of 1967. We're going to find out what makes this law, so important and so powerful.
So think about this for a second. What does it actually take to legally protect a forest? You might be thinking, well, you put up a fence, maybe post some guards, and yeah, that's part of it. But the real strength, the thing that makes it stick, is something way more fundamental. It's about building an ironclad legal framework.
And that framework, well, it all comes down to a law. For Telangana, the absolute backbone of all forest conservation is this act, all the way from 1967. It's the document that lays out all the rules, the definitions, and, importantly, the consequences. It's a seriously powerful tool for preservation.
So let's start with the big picture. What was this law even for? Well, it was designed to create a whole legal system for managing and conserving forests. And it starts with a definition of what's in a forest that's probably way broader than you think. To really get what this law is doing, you've got to look at what it's protecting. The Act talks about something called forest produce. And this isn't just about timber and bamboo. Nope. Section 2G says it also includes stuff like honey, wax, charcoal, even minerals, and the surface soil itself. So right from the get-go, you can see this isn't just about saving trees. It's about protecting the whole shebang, the entire ecosystem.
Okay, now we're getting to the absolute core of this act. There are two key classifications that pretty much everything else hangs on: reserved forests and protected forests. And honestly, understanding the difference between these two is crucial to seeing how the law actually works on the ground.
The easiest way to think about it is like this. A reserved forest is basically a treasure vault. It gets the highest level of protection possible. The whole legal process to create one is designed to figure out and settle every single private claim on that land, turning it into a real fortress for conservation. A protected forest, on the other hand, is a little different. It's more like a carefully managed park. It's still government land, but any existing private rights are recorded and then regulated, not necessarily wiped out. All right, so how do you actually build one of these legal treasure vaults? The process for creating a reserved forest is, let me tell you, incredibly thorough. It's a step-by-step journey of public announcements and serious legal work.
Yeah, this isn't something that happens overnight. First up, the government has to officially propose the idea and appoint a special forest settlement officer. Then, that officer makes a big public announcement, giving everyone, and I mean everyone, 6 to 12 months to come forward with any claims or objections. And this is where it gets really detailed: the inquiry. The officer investigates every single claim, whether it's for a pathway, grazing rights, you name it. After that, all the legitimate rights are settled. They might be allowed to continue, but with rules, or they're bought out with compensation, or sometimes the piece of land is just cut out of the forest boundary. Only then, after every single claim and appeal is sorted, does the government issue the final declaration. Boom, it's a reserved forest.
And here's a really crucial part. The moment that first proposal is published, Section 7 of the Act basically hits the pause button on the land. It freezes everything. No new rights can be created, no new houses built, no new land cleared for farming. This is super important because it prevents a last-minute land grab and makes sure the whole process is fair and orderly.
Okay, so we've got these two types of forests. What does that actually mean for, what people can and can't do? Well, it means there are very strict rules, especially when it comes to taking anything, and I mean anything, out of the forest.
In a reserved forest, that fortress we talked about, the list of things you can't do is pretty long. Section 20 lays it all out. You can't set fires, you can't graze your cattle, you can't quarry stone or clear land. Felling trees, hunting, fishing, setting traps, it's all off limits. Basically, unless you have a specific, pre-existing right that was officially recognized during that whole settlement process, you cannot remove any forest produce, period.
And believe it or not, when it comes to really valuable stuff, the law gets even tighter, with rules that apply not just inside the forest, but, well, everywhere. Just look at this number, 10 kilograms. So what's that all about? Well, according to Section 32 of the Act, this is the most sandalwood any person is allowed to have in their possession without a license. Yep, you heard that right. If you have more than 10 kilos of sandalwood and you don't have a specific license for it from the divisional forest officer, that in itself is an offense.
It just goes to show how the act reaches beyond the forest boundaries to control the trade and stop illegal trafficking of really valuable resources.
But look, rules on paper are one thing, right? They're kind of useless without some muscle to back them up. And this act definitely gives its officers some teeth to make sure the law is followed.
I mean, forest officers get some pretty serious authority here. They can go onto any land to inspect it. They can seize property they think was used to commit a forest crime. We're talking tools, trucks, the works. And in certain situations, they can even arrest someone without a warrant. This gives them the power to act fast to stop damage right when it's happened.
But it's not like it's the Wild West. These powers aren't just unchecked. Section 44 lays out a very clear process. When property is seized, for example, the person that belongs to gets a written notice telling them exactly why. They have a right to a hearing to make their case, and if an order is made to confiscate their property, they have a whole 30 days to appeal it in a district court. It's a real system of power balanced with due process.
And you can really see how this all plays out when you look at the penalties. A general offense in a protected forest might get you a 200 rupee fine. But do the same thing in a reserve forest, and you could be looking at a 2,000 rupee fine and even jail time. And just look at the penalties for sandalwood. It doesn't matter what kind of forest it is. There's a mandatory minimum of 3 months in jail and a huge fine. That really drives home its special protected status.
So what does this all boil down to? The Telangana Forest Act of 1967 created this really robust, multi-layered system, defining the ecosystem, classifying the land, and backing it all up with serious enforcement. Which kind of leaves us with one big question, right? In our world of new challenges, things like climate change and huge development pressures, how does a law that's over 50 years old hold up and adapt to protect the forests of today and tomorrow? Thanks for joining us on The Explainer.